What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of World Hatstory 101. I am Lieutenant Nathaniel Flint of the Landship Scorpius, and today I'm here with Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm super excited for this episode today. We are dealing with the Kippah, or the Yarmulke, also known as, and I get to have a collaboration with your channel as you are an expert. I'm super excited to do this video with you today. I would love to introduce your channel, but I think that's better for you. Do you want to go ahead and introduce you and your channel?
Sure. Hi, my name is Hannah. My YouTube channel is called Hannah Simone. I am an Orthodox Jew and I'm in college. I did not grow up observant. And as I was becoming observant in high school, I was looked to YouTube like any 16-year-old would to kind of find my crowd, find my niche. And I didn't really find any Orthodox YouTubers. And then a lot of things about Orthodox Jews on YouTube aren't the most positive, and in general, in the media, not the most positive. And people just have a lot of stereotypes and preconceived notions that I kind of wanted to dispel. So I thought, okay, I'm pretty creative. I like editing videos. Might as well start my own YouTube channel. So I started that about a year and a half ago.
Well, how do you feel that you've done so far? I mean, that is definitely what one of the reasons I brought you on today for World Hatstory is I'm really hoping that this will help kind of break down some of those misconceptions, and having a firsthand account of those misconceptions and kind of that first account knowledge is very helpful.
Yes, I'm very excited. I actually had to do some of my own research for this video because I don't wear a kippah. So I just kind of had to look around, but it was really interesting. And now I know more. So that was a really cool opportunity to do so.
Indeed. Well, I'm glad that came about. I know that that's been one of the best things about doing this series myself, has just it's a weird niche concept, but once you start researching these hats and the cultures that are kind of behind them, you end up learning a lot. And I've had a really good time doing that. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And I guess we'll start with pronunciation, because I just said a few different names people see in the title, and they're not pronounced as they're spelled. I mean, I just said Kippah, which is probably incorrect. So why don't we go with that? What would you call this hat?
Sure. So in Hebrew, it's called a kippah. So you were very close, just like a little like vowel pronunciation. And then in Yiddish, it's called a yarmulke, which is also really confusing because I think there's an R in the spelling. So I'm sure that throws a ton of people off, but it would be pronounced a yarmulke.
A yarmulke or a kippah. Is there a difference between them, or is it just different? What's the word? Sects just have different names for them, or are they actually different hats with different styles and different meanings?
So within the category of like Jewish male head covering, it refers to the same thing. It's just different languages. In Judaism, a lot of things are said in either Hebrew or Yiddish. Yiddish is more common amongst Jews from Eastern Europe. So like myself, my parents are both from Russia. My dad speaks Yiddish. That would be called an Ashkenazi Jew. So Yiddish would be more popular, but there are plenty of things said in Hebrew also. Like different pronunciations of things also would be more like Yiddish sized, if that's a word, or more Hebrew. But in essence, they refer to the same thing.
Usually I start off with talking about when the hat was created. So do you have anything about when this started, or how this kind of came to be that they started wearing this?
So it's really interesting because I think a kippah or a yarmulke is such a symbol of Judaism, but it's not actually sourced anywhere in the Bible. And the concept of kippah didn't really come around until the second century. There is discussion in the Talmud, which is the written down oral Torah. And that's where kind of the discussion starts of should people be wearing kippot, which is the plural. But there were definitely sages during the time of the Talmud that didn't. But now it's just become very mainstream. And I would say it has become a part of the Jewish law. There some Jewish customs that just over time become so popular or so practiced that it kind of becomes part of the Jewish law. So I would say that's definitely what happened with the kippah. But from my research / asking around of people, it didn't really come up until the 2nd century for, I would say, laymen to wear it. But when the temple did stand in Jerusalem, the priests, or in Hebrew it's called the Kohanim, they would cover their heads when they went into the temple. But again, it didn't really become commonplace until the 2nd century.
That's quite a while. But it's definitely become more of a mainstream thing. When would you say that, well, if you know, when did the kind of mainstream happen, when it became more of a, I guess, a Jewish symbol instead of
I'm not really sure, but I think after, like, once the sages of the 2nd century made a decision, yes, Jewish men need to cover their heads as a symbol of piety and kind of that God is above them. I think in that time it kind of took off, and then there's different types of styles and symbols. I don't know if you want to talk about that later, which I don't know exactly when those came to be. But I would say, again, after the 2nd century is probably when it took off.
All right. Well, actually, that's a good point to roll into that. I think the next thing I usually end up talking about is just describing the hat or showing like examples. So why don't we get right into that? As you said, there was different symbols and things. I'll just let you kind of go off on the description of it.
Sure. Officially, when the Talmud and later decisors of Jewish law talk about a kippah, we think of like the saucer hat, but really any type of hat works. So the hat you are wearing could fulfill the obligation to cover your head. A lot of people wear baseball caps. If you want to wear a bucket hat, you could do that. So things like that. But when you think of more of the traditional kippah, there are a few different types. And I'm sure there are types I don't know about, but I can talk about a few. So one is called a kippah sruga, which just means a knitted kippah. And that's really common amongst the religious Zionist community in Israel. And then within that, the different colors mean things. So a black knitted kippah would be more, I guess, to the right of the religious spectrum. Some people wear colorful ones. So I've seen like the army print with the logo for the Israeli army. Some people will have like the outline of Jerusalem on it, different patterns. Sometimes it's just a plain colored one. You can buy anything. I've also seen in like the touristy areas of Israel where a lot of college students will come, they'll have knitted ones of colleges. So that's pretty cool. And then on the Sabbath, a lot of people in that community will wear a white one because they also wear white shirts, kind of just to symbolize the sanctity of the day. And I guess it's fancier.
Yeah.
So there's that, which is again with the more religious Zionist community. Then there's a black velvet kippah, which is more common with like the yeshivish black hat community. So I guess, again, more to the right. I guess those would be people in Lakewood. That's what comes to mind, but not specifically. It could be really anywhere. And more of the ultra-Orthodox community would wear black velvet. Then there's the Bukharian kippah, which kind of looks like the one that Aladdin wears. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like bigger and it's kind of like a box. The Bukharian kippah is common with Jews from Uzbekistan who'd be known as Bukharian. They're kind of like Sephardic Jews, meaning Jews from the region of Spain and things like that. But then they speak Russian. They're great. Big fan, because I also speak Russian. So we have a great time. So that's common amongst like the Sephardic community and also little kids, just because it stays on their head better because it's bigger and it has more surface area. So then when they're running around and jumping around, it stays on better. And then there's a suede kippah, which really covers a really big spectrum. I would say probably most common in the modern Orthodox or conservative circles. But again, like anyone can wear any of these. It doesn't really matter. And then in some communities, women will wear it. Not as common. You won't see that in Orthodox Judaism, But in, I think, more Reform, Reconstructionist, conservative, there are women. So sometimes it'll be a knit kippah, or I've seen more like intricate, pretty ones and more feminine ones, or like doilies. That's pretty common in Reform temples. Yeah. There's also like these like paper ones, not paper, but thin ones that a lot of synagogues will have like at the front. If someone doesn't have one, then they can just put that on. I don't know why it's so common that every synagogue has these like really thin papery ones, but it's just a thing that people have.
Yeah, it's probably like you said, it's a cost thing. If there's visitors or something, they're probably
Yeah.
gonna have them to hand out.
And then a lot of people will have a custom to make specialized kippahs for like bar mitzvahs or weddings. So like I have like a drawer of kippahs just like from bar mitzvahs and weddings, and on the inside it'll say the person's name and when their bar mitzvah was, so that, and then it'll have a design maybe with their theme. Or I went to a bar mitzvah in Israel, so he had like the skyline of Jerusalem around the kippah, so that was really cool.
It's kind of like a memorial for that.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I assume this is the biggest thing to talk about is why is this hat so important to the Jewish religion specifically? I know that you kind of mentioned earlier. But
one of the sources of wearing a kippah, there's a story in the Talmud about a woman who was told by astrologers or something like that her son was destined to become a thief. And she had this idea that to prevent this from happening, she insisted that he covered his head as a reminder of God, because God is above you and the kippah's on your head. And then this worked for a while. And then her son was sitting under a tree, and either a branch sagged it or there was wind, I'm not really sure. And it came off. And then he suddenly had a desire to take a piece of fruit from this tree that didn't belong to him. And then he stole it. And then he came to realize the power or the effect, I guess, on him that the kippah had. So really, I guess it would symbolize subservience to God and the realization that as much as you want to plan something or try or control things, that really, at the end of the day, God is in control and God is above you. So I would say it's mainly a reminder of that. But I think also at this point, it's become a sense of Jewish pride. I was in a Jewish youth group in high school called C-Teen, and they were very into instilling Jewish pride, and they would always encourage people after an event, take something upon yourself. And I remember I was in high school. No, I was on my gap year, but one of my friends from this youth group was still in high school when there was a Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh in 2018. And he's not observant at all, but he just decided that something that he connected to after this shooting was, okay, this gunman came into the synagogue to kill people because they were Jewish. I kind of want to rebel against that and say, I'm going to wear a kippah as a sign of my Jewish pride and that I love being Jewish and my Jewish heritage. And I think it's important to me. So he put on the kippah, not observant, but just something he felt really connected to. And as far as I know, it's been almost 3 years and he's still wearing it. So I guess that aspect of always being a visible Jew, which can sometimes be scary, but I think can also be really beautiful.
Yeah, so that community aspect, but also that Jewish pride, we don't hear that very much. I have questions on how it's made in hat etiquette. We've kind of discussed a lot of the etiquette a few times in the other topics. Did you do any research on how it was made?
How it's made, I think just in a factory. I know people who, the Kippah Yarmulke, which is among like the religious Zionist community, a lot of people just hand crochet it. There's not like a special process or a ritual process of making a kippah like there are in other Jewish religious ritual objects. But for this, I think you just crochet it, or I don't really know how the other ones are made, but there's no special process or anything like that. And you can buy it online. There's a really cute company called iKippah, which mainly does kids kippahs. They have like really cute patterns, but those are really nice. So you can buy that online, any Jewish store, probably on Amazon. You can buy them almost anywhere. And in Israel, you can buy them like every 6 feet because every vendor is selling them. And as far as etiquette, if you go by the strictest opinion, I guess, you're not supposed to really walk or say a blessing without it. Like, listen, if you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, like, whatever, like, we're not really coherent when we go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. But I know a lot of men will sleep with it on their nightstands. That way, when they wake up, they can put it on. And then people who don't wear it all the time, they would wear it at religious events or in synagogue. A lot of people who come to my rabbi for Sabbath meals, even if they don't wear a kippah normally, they'll wear one for the meal, just like they're at the rabbi's house out of respect type of thing. Or like at the Western Wall, they have like little baskets of kippahs for people that, again, don't normally wear it, but want to put it on because it's a holy place and they want to be respectful. I guess that's the only etiquette I can think of. Some communities wear hats in addition. So actually there's kind of very similar to your hat, but it's usually black. So some communities, like Hasidic communities, will wear the kippah and then the hat on top. They don't always wear the hat, but mainly on like the Sabbath, or like if they're going to like somewhere special, or if they're praying. There's also a shtreimel, which is that like round fur hat that a lot of people will wear. These are mainly Jews from Eastern Europe. They don't really have a place. They're not sourced in Jewish law, it just kind of came about as a custom. And then a lot of people, like a lot of men, won't pray unless they're wearing that hat. Just, I guess, as an additional covering and kind of to make themselves nicer and more prepared for prayer. But again, it's all from custom. There are plenty of people that just wear a kippah and that's it. It's all custom. You can also, again, find more information on that online and like pictures and stuff like that. But I just think it's really interesting to see, especially the shtreimels, because they're huge and like furry. And I just like, I don't know how those people don't tip over, but like maybe they have like excellent neck strength. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to do a world Hatstory on those, but they were very specific to a very specific group of people. But yeah, no, they are fantastic. And yeah, it does have a special name, the black one you're saying. Wow, the name escapes me. Please put that up, Nate, in editing. It's got a special name, but nowadays, especially in the United States, many of the Jews who use that specific hat style have switched to just kind of having black fedoras, and it's just a kind of a modernization thing, that it's just easier to get them, and they serve the same purpose.
Right. I mean, in a lot of Jewish communities, there'll be specifically hat stores. There's one in Brooklyn that I've been to that the name is escaping me, but I can tell you once I remember. And it's just a whole store of black hats and like different shapes and sizes. And there are a lot of communities that wear black hats, but there are like certain nuances that kind of say, oh, I'm from this community, I'm from this community. At the end of the day, it's just nuance and custom. But I just think it's really interesting.
It hasn't been an easy road for the Jewish people, and a lot of people. Should I get? Actually, yeah, I kind of do want to. A lot of people like me growing up have learned about all these hardships and all these terrible histories, and then we kind of get this little like, aren't you glad we don't live in the past? But obviously, it's not the past; it's a reality for many people. Even as recently as 2020, I mean, we see things like this that are just like you said. It's a lot of people are still very anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, and we see a lot of that tied to, I mean, a lot of the troubles, especially here in America, that we're seeing. So you said it can be really scary. Do you think that's one of the reasons we may not see it as much, or do you think that's a reason we see it as much in public as we do, is because people are like, I am Jewish and it isn't easy, so I will wear this as a sense of pride because I'm surviving despite everything we're kind of going through? Or
that's an interesting question. I think maybe you don't see it as often because Jews are only 0.02 of the world population. So there's really not a lot of Jews out there. So that could be why. Regionally, there's a lot more Jews in the East Coast than, say, the Midwest or the South. Just talking about America. Yeah. And America has the second biggest Jewish population outside of Israel. So I think that could be why there's just like not a lot of Jews. So there aren't so many people wearing it. I think for some people it could be a fear factor. My parents are both from the Soviet Union, so Judaism, they didn't just in general an excellent job of wiping out religion in the Soviet Union. So my family hasn't really done the Jewish thing until like I decided to explore it. But a lot of, at least from my mom's Judaism, is very fear-based and very much I want to be outwardly Jewish because I want to fight the anti-Semites. So again, in December 2019, over Hanukkah, there was a rabbi in Muncie, New York, who was killed in his home, or he was badly injured, and then he died in the hospital. And I was in Israel at the time, and my mom called me, so just we could catch up on our days, and we were talking about this, and she goes, well, to fight the anti-Semites, I'm going to start lighting Sabbath candles. And it didn't, I think part of it came from a place of, I think this is a really beautiful thing to do. But also a big part of it was like, I want to spite the anti-Semites, and like, I want to show them like, oh, you told me I can't be Jewish. Oh, you're going to attack me because I'm Jewish. Well, I'm going to do the exact opposite. So that's been from my observation. But then also, not every Jew wears a kippah every day. So it might not even be a fear thing. It might just be, I don't connect to it, or I don't want to wear it. So I think people do what they're comfortable with. A lot of people who don't wear a kippah, during the week will wear one when they're in synagogue, just as a respect thing. But there was a Jewish man who was killed in Baltimore, May 2nd, 3 days ago, named Ephraim Gordon, and he was wearing a kippah, and he was attacked in the street, and the people who saw this happening or heard this happening heard the person that killed him saying anti-Semitic slurs. It's really, really unfortunate, really sad. He was visiting his family. He's from Israel. But obviously I can't speak for him. I don't know him, but I don't think he regrets wearing a kippah, because at the end of the day, he died because he was a Jew, and there was nothing really he could do about that. And there is an idea that people who die just because they're Jews, they go straight to heaven, no questions asked, because they died in the name of God. That's not the goal to do that. Like, no one's trying to be a religious martyr, but I think he valued being Jewish, and he valued wearing a yarmulke, and that symbol of Jewish pride and Jewishness. So I think even though it's really unfortunate, it is an identifying factor of being Jewish. And I go to a college campus, and we do have a pretty substantial Jewish population. And it's always really exciting. Like, if I'm like on campus and I see someone and they're wearing a kippah, I'm like, oh, do I know who that is? Like, because there are some people that I don't know, and it's so exciting to see it on campus. And even if I don't know them, or I've never had a conversation, but like we know of each other, it's still that connecting factor of like, oh, I'm Jewish, you're Jewish. Okay, maybe I'll see you Friday night at synagogue.
Yeah, no, I always, it tears me up to hear stuff like this. It really does. I don't like, well, I mean, obviously I don't like anti-Semitism or any kind of prejudices. It's just, we see that a lot, is this person was visually standing out, and they reminded me that I'm not the only person in the world. We see this with a lot of Sikh people with their turbans and things. And we see this a lot of let's call a spade a spade. We see a lot of white supremacist hate that is rooted in all this absolute terribleness. And it's all based on what you're wearing. It's just clothes. You have no idea what this person goes through. And as you said, he was wearing a kippah. So this person said, I don't like them because of my own beliefs. They are not me. My beliefs are based in what? Fear, hate, whatever their excuse is. And they said, because you're wearing that, you are therefore different from me and my enemy. And we see that everywhere. We're seeing it right now with the Asian community a lot. And it's just this really terrible thing. It's definitely one of the reasons I started World Hatstory, and I wanted to explore different cultures through their hats, a shared interest in hats and things. And I don't think that like I'm changing the world, but I definitely am very appreciative of you coming on today and giving your firsthand experience with this, because, I mean, just a little bit of education would change so many people's mind. And it's this form of willful ignorance that they really just don't want to learn. And they don't want to, I guess, treat people like human beings. Oh man, just stories like that just absolutely tear me up. I absolutely can't stand them.
I say a lot that ignorance and uneducatedness, I know that's not a word, is the root of a lot of hate. Like, how do you know you actually wouldn't be really good friends with that person just because, like you said, Sikh people, they wear a turban? How do you know you wouldn't, like, you don't have a million things in common? How do you know you don't both like this, like, really obscure show? How do you know?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Like, you have to talk to people. And I'm double majoring in human development and psychology. And the human development major, it's kind of hard to explain, but a lot of it's just like, let me learn how to be a good and empathetic person. So I've taken classes like development of adolescent girls, multicultural counseling, Black child and adolescent development. And next semester, I'm taking psychology of racism. And just a lot of what we talk about is like, oh, that's so interesting. I, as a person who's not in whatever community we're learning about, I didn't know that about that person. But now I do. Now I know how to be a more empathetic person and like a better human. Okay, this person is acting this way. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe they're not actually being rude. Maybe it's just the way they grew up. And I have to kind of take a step back and like, well, this is actually what it means for them to say this or do this. They're not being rude or weird. That's just who they are and what they grew up doing and thinking. So kind of just, yes, learning about other cultures is really important, because if you're kind of stuck in your echo chamber of your life, then you're never going to expand your horizons and maybe meet really cool people.
You can right now go up to the search bar in YouTube. You can type in X racists, X Nazis, X, all these things. And it's all these people sharing their stories about how they got out of those terrible extremist views. And they all are based on, I took 2 seconds to learn. I took 2 seconds to talk to someone. I realized that my issues that led me to this path had nothing to do with other people or had nothing to do with those people. It's that ignorance. It's that willful ignorance. I mean, ignorance is easily someone just speaks up and you learn, but it's that I don't want to know because I'm mad, or I don't want to learn because I don't care. Like you're not a person, so I'm not going to be empathetic towards you. And that is absolutely, as I have zero tolerance for that kind of mindset. I absolutely hate it. Where do people go to learn more? We've been talking a lot about willful ignorance. Why don't we just say, where do people go to learn more?
Sure. So there is an amazing organization that changed my life called Chabad. It's an outreach group based off of Hasidic philosophy, which is kind of based on Kabbalah, which I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's just a philosophy of Jewish living, and they're very into outreach. That's how my family and myself got involved in the Jewish community. So they have an awesome website called Chabad.org, but literally any Jewish topic, I'm sure other people have asked a question on that website and you can find the answer, or there's an Ask the Rabbi/Religious Jewish Educator feature. You can ask whatever question you want. That's a really incredible resource. There's also a website called My Jewish Learning that has really amazing articles. Aish.org or .com, really awesome resource as well. They have a really beautiful facility based in Israel that also does a lot of outreach in Jewish education. My channel, I haven't talked about kippahs, but I do talk about Judaism. So you can check me out, Hannah Simone.
There will definitely be links to that down in the description below. We have links to Hannah Simone and links to that website you just mentioned. Those will be in the description below.
Those are the best resources that I can think of. I think with those, you'll be set. And then there's also, Rabbi Google, aka just typing into the search engine. You might not always get legit results. I think as you learn more, you can probably sift through what is accurate and what is not. Also, a lot of times when you look up stuff about Judaism, those websites, Chabad.org, My Jewish Learning, and Aish, those are often the first links that pop up. So that's really great.
And with that, well, thank you so much for coming on and giving me your expertise today. I think this was a great World Hatstory. Is there any final thoughts that you want to let the people know about the Kippah?
I would just say if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And I think at the end of the day, I spoke a lot about different communities and the type of kippahs that they wear. But at the end of the day, we're all Jews. It doesn't really matter what you wear on your head. It's all a symbol of Judaism. And I think a lot of it is personal expression and communal expression and feeling like you belong to a community. But again, at the end of the day, it all serves the same purpose. It all really means the same thing. So I think that's really important to mention, that I think within Judaism, people can be really divisive, but at the end of the day, it's a thing on your head. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. When you emailed me to do this, I was so excited. I think your channel is so cool, and just really thank you for this opportunity.
Oh no, thank you. I've always, from my first video, have wanted to do collabs with people. The discussion of how to handle culturally significant or religious headwear has been there from day one. In the end, I knew I really wanted to do the videos regardless, even if I'm not a part of that community. But I mean, the goal is to have someone come in who has a firsthand account and has what's the word, skin in the game, I guess, who is just as passionate as me to represent them. I want to make sure that, again, it is World Hatstory, so that we represent all these different cultures and communities. And I am in your debt. I am honestly, it was a pleasure. It is an honor to have you on to discuss your culture. Where can people find you, not on this channel?
I don't really have an Instagram for my channel. I just kind of have my own, which I keep my own. So I would really just say my channel. But again, if you have questions, you can email me. It's hannahsimone18@gmail.com. You can find that through my channel. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty low key.
To your channel down below. Again, Hannah Simone. Please check her out, guys. Like her videos and send her a subscribe. Subscriptions are free, so definitely go and support her channel. Can't wait to see more, and maybe you'll have your own video on the Kippah in the future after you've done all this research.
Yes, definitely something to think about.
Well, with that, I think I will say that that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for liking. Do remember to like this video. It helps us find our audience, and it helps the Google thing to know that you liked the video. Do be sure to subscribe for more World Hatstory content. Check out up in our little cards up above other World Hatstory 101 videos, and please check out Hannah Simone's channel, link down below in the subscription. If I can, I'll put it up in the cards as well. Thank you so much for coming on today, and with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video or over on her channel.